The morning line of cars snakes around Maple Ridge Elementary like a bright ribbon. Minivans yawning open, coffee steam, kid laughter cutting through the fog. Elijah Brooks keeps the wheel steady with 2 fingers and hums the bass line his daughter likes, the one that makes her shoulders wiggle even when she pretends she's too old to wiggle. Maya's backpack is a galaxy of glitter in the passenger seat. The crosswalk guard raises a gloved hand. Elijah brakes, checks both mirrors, signals, rolls forward. A blue and white cruiser idles 2 parking spaces away. The driver's window cracked, a forearm draped across it like a barrier. The officer's eyes flick toward Elijah, away, back again. That double take Elijah has cataloged his whole life. The cruiser pulls out a line as if invited to cut. Lights flare, not siren, just a flash of authority like a slap without a sound. "Dad," Maya asks. The note of it, small, careful, grinds a gear in Elijah's chest. "Breathe," he says. "We're okay." He lowers the window and folds his hands at 10 and 2 so his silhouette tells the next 30 seconds he means no one harm. The officer steps up into the morning, boots crisp in salt-stained grit. "License and registration," the officer says before hello, before why. His name tag reads Rourke, the block capitals of a man who tightens his jaw to shave. "Good morning," Elijah says. May I ask the reason for the stop?" He keeps his voice even, like wind over glass. Car matched the description. Rourke says he's scanning. Not the plates. Elijah can feel the man scanning him. "And you rode through the stop there." "I stopped," Elijah says. Full stop. He would bet his memory on it the way he'd bet his body on a kid climbing a fence. Without calculation, only instinct. Rourke leans in to see beyond the glare. His gaze collides with Maya's face. Brown eyes wide, hoodie strings twisted in her fingers. Rourke's mouth shifts. Not softer, just recalibration. "Sir, your license." Elijah moves slowly, narrating each hinge of his arm. "I'm reaching for my wallet, back right pocket." The window is down. The whole line can hear him. Whisper becomes witness when said loud enough. He passes the license through, then the registration. Rourke takes them without looking away. "You live on Pleasant?" he asks like a pop quiz. 3 houses down from the corner with a maple that splits like a slingshot, Elijah says. Not a flex, a detail. He learned long ago that specificity sounds like belonging. The non-committal hum of a man who hasn't decided whether facts are potholes or proof. "Officer," Maya's voice is trying on courage like a coat too big. "I'm going to be late for morning art." Rourke looks at her again. The radio hisses some other officer's mourning. He doesn't move. Elijah feels the old heat rising, the heat of being measured like a package at a counter where the clerk keeps the good tape under the register. He swallows the heat into a sentence he can live with. "My daughter has drop-off. I'll pull forward to the curb if you want to follow. You can do whatever you need. She'll go through the gate." Rourke's eyes narrow. Control contested is control threatened. "Stay where you are." He walks back toward the cruiser with the papers and the power to turn minutes into statements. In his mirror, Elijah watches the principal, Ms. Alvarez, step out of the front doors to wave cars along. She sees the cruiser. Her hand falters and straightens. The line hiccups. A crossing guard turns into a metronome. Somewhere behind him, a horn taps the edge of patience like a spoon against glass. "Dad!" Maya again, smaller. Elijah feels the morning's choreography collapsing into an angle no one rehearsed. He keeps his eyes forward and counts. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. The air comes like a decision. Across the street, a woman in a navy peacoat stops beside the school sign that reads, "Welcome back, Rockets. PTA meets at 9:15. She has a rolled-up poster tube strapped to her backpack and a stack of handouts hugged to her ribs. She watches the cruiser through sunglasses that are unnecessary in the soft light and keeps moving, angling toward the office door. As she crosses, her phone vibrates. A calendar alert. PTA Safety and Inclusion Assembly. Presenter President Elijah Brooks. She taps to dismiss and lengthens her stride. Inside the office, she sets the handouts on the counter, smiles at the secretary, who answers 3 calls at once and says, "Tell Ms. Alvarez I'm here for the 9:15. And please let her know Mr. Brooks will be cutting it close. He's busy being profiled at the curb." The secretary's phone hand freezes. She lifts her eyes, startled. "You're Tessa Vaughn," the woman says, offering a hand. "PTA Vice President." Her grip is dry and certain. We're about to have a teachable morning. The radio in Rourke's cruiser crackles a list of things that in a different city would become someone else's morning. A fender bender on Elm, a call about a loose dog, a false alarm at the bakery that smells like butter and warm coins. He stays with the man in the car and the girl with the art class because something inside him, trained and not, has clicked into the notch called suspicion. He runs the license. It returns a clean line of yeses. Yes, valid. Yes, address matches. Yes, no wants or warrants. The plates match the registration. The photograph matches the face at the wheel, plus 10 years and a beard. The neatness of the data rubs against the messiness of his morning mood until it sparks nothing at all. Rourke walks back. Elijah keeps his hands where they were, where everyone can see them. The car behind Manueva's around. The driver gives Elijah the tight smile parents exchange during weather and war. Solidarity with an apology baked into it. Ms. Alvarez has come down the walkway now. She keeps a careful distance, the way an adult does when stepping into a triangle made of power, fear, and a child. Officer, she says, polite as a new pencil, we're trying to move drop-off along. Is everything okay? Routine check, Rourke says without looking at her. Routine is a hangnail you ignore until you bleed on your shirt. Elijah turns his head. Ms. Alvarez, can Maya go in? She has art. Ms. Alvarez hesitates a heartbeat for appearances. The kind of hesitance women in leadership perfect so men don't trip on it. Then nods. Of course. Maya, sweetheart, I'll walk you. Rourke frowns. I haven't cleared the vehicle. It is cleared for school, Ms. Alvarez says, tone mild, but with the buried steel of a woman who has stood between bigger storms and smaller bodies. And she's a child. Come on, Maya. She opens the passenger door with a smile that is equal parts umbrella and rebellion. Maya slides out, backpack bumping her knee, and looks back at her father. Elijah keeps the smile he saved for first days. Rocket speed, kiddo. She nods. Ms. Alvarez takes her hand, which is how you tell a crowd which side you're on without raising your voice. Rourke watches them go, jaw squared. He's not sure whether he dislikes the principal's tone or the feeling that something he didn't intend has been made visible. He clears his throat. Mr. Brooks, you rode through the stop. I stopped, Elijah repeats. He could pick a fight on the head of that pin, call up the geometry of his brake lights, the testimony of the crossing guard's palm. He doesn't. He hears his own father's voice. Choose the win that gets your child inside the door. Where are you headed after this? Rourke asks. Elijah blinks. The auditorium, he says, because he is tired of pretending that what some men call transparency, others call audacity. PTA assembly at 9:15. I'm the president. We're presenting on safety and inclusion and drop-off and pickup. Irony included. A flicker crosses Rourke's face. Annoyance? Embarrassment? He presses it down. Step out of the vehicle, he says. Elijah doesn't argue. He narrates again. Opens the door. Stands with his hands at his sides where they can be counted. He's tall and solid from years of lifting kids off playground equipment and lifting boxes for the food pantry and lifting the spirits of tired teachers with coffee he buys without being asked. He looks like what he is. A father with a job and a responsibility and 100 micro explanations learned for the days when explaining is the only armor allowed. Turn around, Rourke says. Elijah swallows. Am I being detained? You're failing to obey a lawful order. I'm asking a lawful question. No heat. A line of chalk between players. The parking lot has become a stage. When adults look, kids look. When kids look, the story becomes large. Tessa, the woman in the pea coat, has come back out. She stands by the sign with the PTA time and takes off her sunglasses. Her eyes meet Elijah's for a beat. A small nod passes between them like a key. Officer, Tessa calls, calm as polished wood. I'm Vice President Vaughn. That is President Brooks. If you delay him, you delay the safety presentation designed to make your mornings easier. She lifts the rolled poster tube that suddenly looks like a lance. Rourke's mouth tightens. A power dynamic he knows, one-on-one, badge against driver, has become a triangle he doesn't control. He hates triangles when he isn't the one drawing them. He glances at the radio, at the office door, at the phone one parent is holding at chest height with the camera angled not quite at him and not quite away. Mr. Brooks, he says, I'm issuing a warning for the stop sign. You can go. Elijah breathes. The breath has layers. Relief, resentment, The ache you get when you release a muscle held too long. Thank you, he says. He climbs back in, starts the engine, checks the mirror, signals into a line that has learned new patience out of necessity. As he pulls away, Rourke calls after him, almost as an afterthought. Don't be late for your meeting. It is a kind of olive branch, clumsy, brittle, not yet shaded by leaves. Elijah drives the 30 yards to the curb and parks. He sits for a second, forehead against the heel of his hand. The steering wheel carries the warmth of his skin. The car smells like crayons and coffee. He closes his eyes and can almost hear his grandmother. Some mornings you pack a lunch for your dignity. Eat it slow. It has to last you till evening. He steps out and locks the car. The PTA poster tube in Tessa's hand bumps his arm as she falls into step with him. That could have gone worse, she says. It often does, he says. Do you want to cancel? She asks. He laughs once, without humor. Today would be the day to cancel. Today is the day to do the thing. Ah, good, she says, because I brought more handouts than is dignified for a person without a rolling suitcase. They walk in together. The secretary looks up and smiles the smile that belongs to people who keep schools running. Half mother, half air traffic control. Auditorium's ready. Ms. Alvarez said to tell you. She hesitates, weighing the words. To tell you you're seen. Elijah nods. He's aware of the pressure behind his eyes. He will not let it break him. Tell her I know, he says. Tell her we'll be clear and kind. Clear and kind, Tessa echoes, like a spell. They step into the auditorium's cool hush. Folding chairs ripple in rows. A cluster of teachers stands near the stage, murmuring around clipboards. A custodian adjusts a mic stand with a care that says he hates feedback more than he hates late nights. Backstage, Elijah sets the poster tube down and exhales. He looks at the outline he wrote last night. La Hun, drop-off choreography. 2, bus loop etiquette. 3, cars and crossings. 4, inclusion, seeing every family. 5, questions. He had added a 6th bullet at 1:13 a.m. 6, what happens when the system forgets to see you? He only half meant to use it. Now it feels like the day wrote it for him. Tessa touches his elbow. You want me to open or you want to? I'll open, he says, but do not let me go off the rails. Tap your pen if I start preaching. You're allowed a little sermon, Tessa says, eyes kind. Just build it on logistics. That way, the resistant ones leave having learned a rule, even if they didn't think they learned a story. He smiles. You talk like a teacher. I am. Tuesdays and Thursdays, civil discourse to 7th graders. He whistles low. Godspeed. God earplugs, she says. Parents file in. Denim jackets, laptop bags, yoga pants, scrubs. A few officers stand in the back, called in for the section on coordinated crosswalk timing. Rourke is among them. He keeps to the edge, cap low, posture careful. Elijah sees him and feels the heat flicker. He wills it into something he can carry to the mic without burning his mouth. Ms. Alvarez steps to the podium. Welcome, Rockets, she says. Her voice is cinnamon and firm ground. Today is about safety and inclusion. Those are not 2 meetings. They are one. Our PTA president, Mr. Elijah Brooks, will lead us. She looks out and lets her gaze rest a millisecond longer where Rourke stands, not calling him out, only counting him in. We are all learners today. Elijah walks to the mic. He places both hands on the lectern and looks at the first row. Teachers sleep thin and fierce. 3rd row, moms who have done a shift already. Last row, the officers, the district liaison, the custodian who hates feedback. He breathes. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out. Good morning, he says. Before we talk about cones, arrows, and the proper use of the bus loop, I want to ask you to do something strange. I want you to picture the parking lot from above, like a drone, like your God with a clipboard. You see lines, cars, motion. You see how things should go. Well, now zoom down into one minivan window. There's a kid in the back who forgot their poster and a dad who remembered the permission slip but not the coffee. Now zoom lower. Skin, hair, hoodie color. The lens tightens. The lines blur. He pauses. We're going to build a system that works from above and below because we live from below. And some of us, he glances toward the back without letting his eyes stick, live with a lens that does not forgive our bodies for existing. There's a hush, not tense, expectant. He could pivot to cones now and pretend this is just logistics. He does not. This morning, he says, I was pulled out of line at drop-off. My daughter was in the passenger seat. We were told I matched the description and rolled to stop. He raises a palm. Joe, I probably stopped too long, to be honest, because I'm careful. But the point is not me. The point is what the line saw. The point is what my child felt. The point is whether our choreography makes it easier for bias to hide and harder for dignity to breathe. No one coughs. Tessa stands at his shoulder like a comma that lets the sentence breathe without ending it. So here's what we're going to do. Elijah says, clicking to the first slide. A map of the lot with highlighted lanes. We're going to run this lot like music. And while we do, we're going to talk about how to be careful without being cruel. Because safety without inclusion is just a different word for control. He starts with cones. He starts with arrows. He starts with the bus loop. He weaves in the word sea until it becomes graphite on the day's page. And as he speaks, Rourke shifts against the back wall. A man who did not expect to be named without being called out. A man who was hearing his own mourning in someone else's grammar. When Elijah reaches bullet 6, the one that Day wrote, he doesn't open a vein. He opens a door. Sometimes, he says, we need a rule that says, when in doubt, assume you're looking at a neighbor trying to get a child to art on time. He smiles dry. And sometimes we need a rule that says, don't flash your lights at a parent unless you're ready to explain it at a mic. A ripple of laughter. Gentle, not barbed. Ms. Alvarez smiles too, and even the custodian lets his mouth agree. Elijah closes part 1 with logistics. A crowd will accept a sermon if you end on a map. Questions? He asks. A hand goes up. Officer Rourke's. Elijah's breath stutters. He nods. Rourke clears his throat. Would you be open, he says, voice steady but not armored, to meeting with our shift this week, to walk us through the lens you just described? Not the cones, the other part. Elijah looks at him for a long second. The auditorium feels like a held breath. He nods. Yes, he says, clear and kind. The words land like chalk lines on a court begging for fair play. 2 days later, a dozen officers sit around a community room table that smells faintly of coffee and promotions. The walls are municipal beige. The carpet has survived generations of donut sugar. On the whiteboard, someone has written Maple Ridge LM Drop-Off. Underneath, bullets that could be street names. Cones, wagging, crosswalk cadence, bias protocol. Elijah is tired in that useful way that means he will choose words carefully and none will be wasted. Tessa leans against the back credenza like a lighthouse. Ms. Alvarez has come too, her presence a hinge between school and street. The lieutenant, gray at the temple, eyes like a man who has seen both the worst of people and the best at 2 a.m, opens the session. We can do this 2 ways, he says. We can check boxes and get through it, or we can listen and change some mornings. I'm choosing the second. If you want the first, there's the door and a remedial video. He doesn't point. He doesn't need to. No one moves. Elijah steps up. He lays out 3 pieces of paper. Not packets, just 3 sheets with 3 headings. Above, below, between. Above is the map, he says. We'll get there. Between is the set of rules we agreed to, the choreography. We'll get there too. Below is where bias lives. Below is where kids' memories are made. Below is where we lose trust in under a minute and need a year to earn it back. He begins with below. He doesn't show slides. He asks them to talk. What happens in your chest at drop-off, he asks. Not outside, inside. A young officer, Freitas, fresh from academy edges, says, noise. The kids, the horns. I'll feel like if I don't lock things down, something will spill. Good, Elijah says. Name it. He writes noise on the board. What else? Time, says another. Everything is late already. Time pressure, Elijah writes. And ambiguity, says a third quietly. You can't tell who's confused and who's messing with you. It's 10 subtle puzzles at once. He looks like a man who reads people for a living and knows he is not perfect at it. Elijah nods. He writes ambiguity. Now flip it. What does a parent have in their chest? What does a kid? Late, says Freitas, almost laughing. The room loosens a fraction. Fear, says a veteran, Ramirez, 20 years in, jaw like weather. Not of us necessarily, of all the things that make mornings go wrong before anyone's had coffee. Elijah writes fear. Add this, he says and writes history. Some of us walk into mornings carrying other mornings. Mornings that weren't just tense, mornings that cut. You don't have to have caused those mornings to be responsible for what you do about them. That's what it means to be the person with the power at the curb. He turns. Rourke is in the second row, back straight, hands together like a man who has taught himself not to fidget. Elijah doesn't call him out. He calls him in. Officer Rourke asked for this session, he says, casual as a weather report. He said he wanted to see the lens from below, so let's look. He clicks to the only slide he brought, a still from a drone shot of the lot above, then a dash cam image from a parent's car below. He toggles between them with a click. Above, below, above, below. The room watches the world change without moving. Here's the between, Elijah says, drawing a line on the board like a path between two hills. 5 rules, clear and kind. No one's pride gets to outrank a kid's heartbeat. He writes, 1. Narrate, then ask. If you're gonna stop someone, say why first, then ask for ID. I saw X, I need to check Y license, please. It disarms the spiral. 2. Count 3 breaths. Your 3 breaths, not theirs. It pushes reaction into response. 3. Kid priority protocol. If a child is present, expedite the kid to the gate with a staff escort before proceeding with the adult. Here, Ms. Alvarez raises a hand to confirm the school side of the handoff. 4. Body cam volume up, tone down. Narration becomes record. Record becomes training. Keep your language clinical, not combative. 5. Bias check phrase. If you can't articulate a neutral suspicion in a sentence without referencing appearance or vibes, you don't have grounds to stop the car. You have grounds to make the line smoother and keep watching. He lets the rules sit like new furniture no one is sure they're allowed to use yet. Questions, the lieutenant says. Concerns. Rourke lifts a hand. The room shifts a little, expecting either a defense or a deflection. He surprises them. I want to add a 6th rule, he says, voice steady. Apologize in the moment if you got it wrong, not later. There, say it. I'm sorry, safe morning. He shrugs, a small movement that feels like heft being redistributed. Doesn't cost anything. Elijah studies him, then nods and writes 6. Apologize in the moment. This might be the cheapest de-escalation we have, he says. They run scenarios. Tessa plays a parent in a hurry. Ms. Alvarez plays an overtaxed staffer. Ramirez plays a crossing guard who dislikes being ignored. They teach a choreography that looks like grace because grace is just choreography you practice until it looks like instinct. Halfway through, Elijah says, we're going to role reverse. He slides into the uniform jacket the lieutenant loaned him. Rourke takes Elijah's spot with a marker. The room buzzes with a laughter that's half nerves, half curiosity. They run the stop again, this time with Elijah as the cop and Rourke as the dad. Elijah narrates, counts breaths, escorts the imaginary kid to the gate, and issues a warning with language so neutral it could be printed on an instruction manual. When he hands the license back, he says, I'm sorry for the delay. Safe morning. The room takes a photograph of the sentence and stores it somewhere hands can access later. At the break, Rourke stands alone, staring at nothing. Elijah joins him. They regard the stale cookies like a decision. Thank you, Rourke says, not looking up, for not turning the auditorium into a firing squad. Elbows in, Elijah says. I coach 7th grade rec league. I've learned you don't fix a kid by humiliating him. I'm not a kid, Rourke says, a ghost of defensiveness passing through. Me neither, Elijah says. But the principle travels. Rourke breathes out through his nose. I saw your daughter, he says. The look. I don't forget that look easily. I don't want to give it to anyone again. Then don't, Elijah says. And when you see someone else gearing up to, say something before I have to. Clear and kind, Rourke says, almost a smile. After the training, the lieutenant asks Elijah to put the rules in writing for a department bulletin. Elijah packages them with a paragraph small enough to tape to a visor. Ms. Alvarez prints a twin version for teachers and staff. Tessa drafts a parent version with illustrations and a caption even the kindergarteners will get. We watch for each other. We wait for the green. We wave with our whole hand. The next morning, the cones go out 2 minutes earlier. The crossing guard has a whistle with a new rhythm. Rourke stands at the far end of the loop, shoulders square but not hard. When a father in a dented Honda taps his brakes uncertainly, Rourke raises his palm in a slow circle that says, turn, you're good. Elijah watches from his wheel and lets a breath out he didn't know he was holding. Maya hums the bass line. The sun feels like permission. A week later, Elijah sits at a school board meeting that smells like gym varnish and duty. He did not plan to speak. He planned to watch the agenda march. But somewhere between budget transfer 7B and playground shade sale discussion, the board opens the floor for public comment. And a parent 3 seats down overheats into a microphone about police being handcuffed by political correctness at drop-off. Now, she says, voice too bright. Officers have to ask nicely before they keep our kids safe. It's a school, not a social experiment. The room hums, low and sharp. Ms. Alvarez's jaw moves once. The lieutenant in the back folds his hands tighter. Rourke isn't here. He's on shift, but his name hangs in the air like an unspoken contingency. Elijah doesn't want to fight. He wants breakfast for dinner and Maya's new art project spread out on the table like confetti. He also wants the world to be what he tells his daughter it is when he needs her to sleep. He stands. 3 minutes, the board chair says gently, as if loaning him the time from her own pocket. My name is Elijah Brooks, he says. Parent, PTA president, above all neighbor. He glances at the parent who spoke and offers her the respect of eye contact. I get fear. Fear is a great liar. It tells you cruelty is efficiency and volume is truth. Fear also gets people hurt. He points at the back where the lieutenant sits. We built 6 rules last week. They are not asked nicely. They are do your job precisely. The difference between suspicion and clarity is the difference between a kid making it to art on time and a kid learning on a Tuesday that adults can't tell the difference between him and a threat. He lets it sit. We can be safe and decent. The choreography is not hard. It is, however, humiliating to your pride if your pride loves the shortcut. He smiles small. I like shortcuts as much as the next dad. But my daughter's face in the passenger seat is not a shortcut. It is the entire road. He yields the mic. The room exhales in a single messy breath. The chair thanks him. The parent who spoke first doesn't meet his eyes. She looks at her phone like a raft. That will have to be enough for tonight. After the meeting, the lieutenant finds him. We're putting your 6 rules on laminated cards, he says. Visors, every unit. I added 1 at the top. Number 0? Elijah asks, grinning. The lieutenant grins back. Number 0. There's a child watching. He taps the card, changes the temperature in the car. Elijah shakes his hand. Tessa snaps a picture for the PTA newsletter and somehow makes a laminated card look like a minor miracle. A month passes. The mornings find their rhythm. Not perfect, better. The cones look less like traffic control and more like choreography. Parents wave their whole hands. Officers narrate before they ask. When someone gets it wrong, there's an apology, not a standoff. That alone changes the weather more than the forecast. One Thursday, Elijah is the one running late. Maya forgot her shoebox diorama. He jogs back from the house with it like a quarterback protecting a tiny forest glued to cardboard. They slide into the line behind a pickup that coughs smoke. Up ahead, an officer, Freitas, steps toward a car idling halfway between lanes. Windows up, driver's face a mirror glaze of panic. Elijah watches Freitas stop, breathe. He can count it now, 1, 2, 3, and lift a hand in a relaxed hello before pointing to the correct lane. The driver, a grandfather by the look of his baseball cap and white knuckles, nods vigorously, adjusts, and merges. No lights, no drama. A small win no one will write down, which is how real change cashes out. Quiet currency, traded without receipt. At the curb, Miss Alvarez is a punctuation mark in yellow. Vest whistle, smile. She leans in Maya's window. Diorama day? Underwater forest, Maya says. Pride turning the words into light. Save me a tour, Ms. Alvarez says. After dismissal, they pull up. Maya unclips her belt, arms crowded by the shoebox. She kisses the air near Elijah's cheek because the line of 5th graders might see. He pretends to be wounded by the absence of an actual kiss. They grin. Rourke is on the far side of the loop. He sees Elijah and tips 2 fingers off his cap, a gesture that is half apology or half alliance. Elijah returns it. No ceremony. Just men exchanging the knowledge that they can be better today than they were last week without making a parade of it. See you, Rocket? Elijah says to Maya. I see you, Dad. She hitches the shoebox with determination that is at once genetic and chosen and slips into the current of kids. Elijah pulls away. He feels the calm of a map and the mercy of a mirror. a choreography that lets him exist as a person first and a category never. He turns the corner toward the workday and catches himself smiling at nothing but the ordinary. He thinks of the 6 rules and a 0 rule. He thinks of the laminated cards. He thinks of Miss Alvarez walking kids by the hand past hard mornings. He thinks of Tessa's poster that says clear and kind in letters thick enough to see from the far seat. He thinks of Rourke's hand lifting its quiet salute. He thinks unexpectedly of his grandmother again. Pack your dignity. Eat it slow. Share it if you can. At a red light, he texts the PTA thread. Next month, pick up flow with winter coats. Ideas, hearts pop. Thumbs up, a gif of traffic cones dancing. Tessa replies, add rule 7? Wave with your whole hand. Elijah types back, always. The light turns green. He goes. The morning goes with him, smoother than yesterday, a little kinder than last year. Somewhere behind him, an officer narrates a stop in a voice that will not scare a child. Somewhere ahead, a kid in an art room paints a forest underwater and tapes a tiny paper fish where the light is brightest. And in the middle, between above and below, between system and soul, there's a school where the front gate has learned to open without making anyone smaller on the way in.